I was not looking for trouble. That is the part that stings the most. It was a Saturday night, quiet and rainy, the kind where you just want to sink into the couch with a cold beer and let the world drift by. Work had drained me all week, and the only thing I planned was scrolling through my phone, flipping past pictures of people pretending their lives were perfect. Barbecue parties, vacations, fake smiles. And then I saw it. At first, it was just another photo in my feed, posted by a mutual friend I had not thought about in years. The setting was familiar, a little coffee shop downtown, one of those spots with dim lighting and overpriced lattes. I had not been there in ages, and according to my wife, Emily, neither had she. She once told me she had outgrown the place, said the crowd had changed, and it did not feel like her anymore. But there she was, clear as day, sitting at a corner table, wrapped in that red sweater she always called her favorite. Her head tilted back in laughter, looking happier than I had seen her in years. And next to her, his arm resting a little too close to hers, was a face I knew but had not seen in a long time. It was him, Brandon, her ex-boyfriend, the one she had sworn was nothing but a foolish mistake from the past. The one she had told me meant nothing anymore. My fingers tightened around my phone as I stared at the screen, dissecting every detail. His eyes were locked on her, like she was the most interesting thing in the world. And the way her body leaned toward him, like she had never left. I sat there for a long time, unmoving, my thumb hovering over the image as if staring at it long enough would change what I saw. Like maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe it was nothing. But deep down, I knew better. I put the phone down, screen facing the table like it carried something toxic. My mind started piecing things together, memories that once seemed harmless now lining up in a way that made my stomach turn. The gym sessions that ran too late. The unexplained nights out. The way she had started pulling away, little by little, so slowly I had not even noticed until now. I checked the time. Emily had gone out earlier, said she was meeting a friend for dinner. I had not asked who. Now I wished I had. My jaw tightened as I paced the living room, the wooden floor creaking under my steps. The rain outside tapped against the window in a slow, steady rhythm, matching the thudding in my chest. Was this a one-time thing, or had it been going on for months? I needed answers, but more than that, I needed proof. She would be home soon. I had no idea what I was going to say, but one thing was clear: I was not going to let this slide. I was not the kind of man to sit back and let someone play me for a fool. I picked up my phone again, staring at the photo one last time. The evidence was right in front of me. Her smile, his stare, the way she seemed so free in that moment. I used to make her smile like that. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway snapped me out of my thoughts. I took a deep breath, stepping back from the window just as the front door unlocked. She walked in, tossing her purse onto the kitchen counter, her expression as casual as ever. "Hey," she said, shaking off her coat. Her keys jingled as she dropped them into the ceramic bowl near the sink. I did not respond right away. I just watched her, studied the way she moved. She was so at ease, so comfortable, like she had no idea she had already been caught. She walked to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and leaned against the counter as she took a sip. "You okay?" she asked, tilting her head. "You were just standing there like you have seen a ghost." "Oh, I have." And she had no idea what was coming. "I could say the same about you." I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. Emily blinked, clearly caught off guard. What is that supposed to mean? I did not answer right away. Instead, I reached for my phone, picked it up off the coffee table, and swiped the screen to the photo, the one that had changed everything. Without a word, I turned it around and held it up so she could see it from across the room. Her reaction was immediate. The smile slipped from her lips, her shoulders stiffened, and for the briefest second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Panic. But just as quickly, she masked it with something else, cold indifference, like she was already calculating her next move. "Where did you get that?" she asked, her voice low and measured. "Social media," I replied, tossing the phone onto the table like it disgusted me. It is funny how things have a way of surfacing when you least expect them. She crossed her arms and leaned against the counter, like she was bracing for impact. "That was from a couple of weeks ago," she said, her tone casual but rehearsed. "It is not what you think." Then tell me what it is, I demanded, my voice rising. She hesitated for just a moment, but I caught it. She was not ready for me to push this hard, this fast. It is nothing, she said, shaking her head as if I was being ridiculous. I ran into him by chance. We had not seen each other in years, so we grabbed coffee. That is all. Just coffee. I took a step forward, closing the distance between us. That is your story? It is the truth, she insisted, her voice gaining an edge. You are blowing this way out of proportion. Am I? I shot back, because I remember you telling me you had not been to that place in years. You said it was not your kind of crowd anymore. So, either you were lying then, or you're lying now. Which is it? Her lips pressed into a thin line, and for the first time, I saw the wheels turning in her head, searching for an angle that would make me back off. I did not think it was important, she finally said, her voice softening like she thought she could smooth this over. It was one conversation. We talked about old times, caught up, and that was it. I did not tell you because I knew you would react exactly like this. I let out a bitter laugh, the kind that carried no humor. You mean I would ask questions? That I would expect honesty from my own wife? Yeah, real crazy of me, huh? Her expression hardened. I did not lie. I just did not think it mattered. Oh, it matters now, I said, my voice low but firm. And I am not buying this innocent, just coffee story. So I will ask you again, what is really going on? She exhaled sharply and pushed past me, walking into the living room and sitting on the edge of the couch. Her hands fidgeted with the hem of her sweater, and for the first time, she looked genuinely nervous. But I was not about to let that shake me. Nothing is going on, she said, her tone flat, like she was bored with the conversation. You're making a big deal out of nothing, and it is exhausting. I'm tired, I just got home, and I really do not feel like arguing. I stared at her, the woman I had built my life around, wondering how much of that life had been built on lies. My mind flashed back to every late-night text she had claimed was from a coworker, every time she had come home later than expected, every excuse that, in hindsight, should have made me think twice. You do not feel like arguing? I repeated, shaking my head. That is convenient. She sighed dramatically, rubbing her temples like I was the problem. You are seeing something that is not there. I do not know how to convince you otherwise. You do not need to convince me, I said, crossing my arms. I'm going to find out the truth whether you like it or not. Her eyes met mine, and for a brief moment, I saw it. Fear. Not the kind of fear that comes from being wrongly accused, but the kind that comes from knowing you have been caught and not knowing how to get out of it. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched between us, longer than it should have. I was waiting for her to make her next move, to show me what kind of woman I was really dealing with. Finally, she leaned back against the couch, her fingers twisting together so tightly her knuckles turned white. Fine, she said at last, her voice just above a whisper. You want the truth? I waited, my heart hammering. There is no truth, she said, her voice rising just a bit. It is exactly what I told you. We met for coffee. That is it. She held my gaze, daring me to push further. She thought she could outlast me. She was wrong. I let out another laugh, sharp, bitter, the kind that felt like it was scraping the back of my throat. You really expect me to believe that? I asked, shaking my head. After all this? After lying to me about him, about where you were? Come on, Emily, give me some credit. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. That hesitation told me more than any words could. There was a gap in her story, something she couldn't smooth over. And we both knew it. You didn't just accidentally run into him, did you? I pressed. She glanced toward the window, like she was looking for an escape route. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. No, he reached out first. Messaged me a few months ago. A few months ago. I felt something shift inside me, something deep and ugly. While I had been planning date nights, looking for ways to keep things fresh, she had been sneaking behind my back, reconnecting with a man she had once promised was nothing but a faded memory. And you did not think to tell me. My voice was steady, but I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. She let out a sharp exhale, like she was tired of defending herself. I did not think it mattered. It was harmless. Harmless. The word burned as it left her lips. You are telling me that keeping secrets, meeting up behind my back, and lying about where you have been is harmless? I stepped closer, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. She turned away from me, her arms wrapped around herself as she stared at the flickering glow of the fireplace. I did not lie, she murmured. I did not tell you everything. I let out another humorless chuckle. That is the same thing, Emily. You know that, right? Or do you just tell yourself it is different so you can sleep at night? That struck a nerve. She spun around, and for the first time all night, there was real fire in her eyes. I am not cheating on you, she snapped. Is that what you want to hear? That I have been sneaking around, having some affair? Because I have not. I made a mistake by meeting him, but it is not what you think. I did not believe her. I cannot. Then tell me, I challenged, stepping closer. Why him? Out of all the people you could have caught up with, why your ex? The one you said was nothing but a part of your past. She hesitated. Not long, but just enough for me to see the answer before she even said it. Because it was easy, she finally admitted, her voice so quiet I almost missed it. Because we had history. He understands parts of me that I didn't think anyone else could. But that does not mean I wanted him back. Her words hit me like a sucker punch to the ribs. I was not enough. That is what she was really saying. Maybe not in the way she meant to, but the meaning was clear enough. I ran a hand down my face, trying to process it all. Does he want you back? I asked. She flinched just barely, but I caught it. I do not know, she admitted. Maybe, but I told him it is not going to happen. I am married. I love you. I made that clear. I let out a slow, steady breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. She loved me. That is what she said. But love was not supposed to feel like this, hollow and cheap. You did not love me enough to be honest, I said, my voice flat. That is what this really comes down to, isn't it? She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, her phone buzzed. The sound cut through the air like a knife. Her whole body stiffened, her eyes flicking toward the screen before she could stop herself. That was all the confirmation I needed. Who is it? I asked, already knowing the answer. It is no one, she said too quickly. I grabbed the phone before she could, flipping it over in my hand. And there it was, his name, glowing on the screen like a neon sign, flashing guilt straight in my face. I did not even need to unlock it. The fact that he was texting her this late told me everything I needed to know. Without a word, I tossed the phone onto the couch, the soft thud echoing in the silence between us. Still think it is harmless? Her breath hitched. I could see the cracks forming now, spreading like spider webs through the mask she had been trying so hard to keep in place. Please do not do this, she whispered. Do not turn this into something it is not. It already is, I said, my voice low but firm. And I'm not stopping until I know exactly how far this went. For the first time, real fear flickered in her eyes. She knew she had lost control of the situation, that she was not going to talk her way out of this. I was going to dig until I found every single piece of the truth, and she damn well knew it. I did not sleep. How could I? Emily had gone to bed hours ago, retreating under the covers like she could hide from what was coming, like she could shut the world out and wake up in the morning as if none of this had happened. But I knew better. I sat downstairs, pacing the living room, the same conversations looping in my head. Her excuses, her half-truths, the way her voice trembled when she said, "Please do not do this." She was not afraid of what she had done. She was afraid of what would happen next. I checked the clock. 3:17 a.m. My mind was racing, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. The truth was right there, hanging in the air, just out of reach. But I was not about to stop now. By the time the clock hit 3 in the morning, I had made up my mind. Half-truths were not enough. Excuses were not enough. I needed something undeniable, something that would force her to admit everything. Her phone was still lying there on the couch, exactly where I had tossed it earlier. I stared at it for a long moment, my fingers twitching. I never wanted to be the kind of man who snooped, who felt the need to dig through messages just to know what his wife was up to. But that line had already been crossed the second she lied to my face. I picked it up. The weight of it felt heavier than it should have, like I was holding a live grenade. I hesitated for only a second before I entered the passcode. She had no idea how well I knew her. Her messages opened, and I went straight to the one name I knew I would find at the top. Nathan. I clicked on it, and it was like unlocking a door I should have never had to open. It was all there. Weeks, months, messages about grabbing coffee, inside jokes, references to places and memories I had no part of. The tone of their conversation was light, familiar, too familiar. And then I found the ones that cut the deepest. I miss talking to you. Today reminded me how easy it used to be. Can't wait to see you again. I gritted my teeth, so hard my jaw ached. But I kept scrolling. I needed more. And then I found the photos. They weren't anything obvious. No smoking gun of them tangled in sheets. But somehow, that made it worse. A picture of a coffee shop table, 2 cups side by side. A snapshot of a park bench, sunlight filtering through the trees. And then the one that made my chest tighten. Her, smiling at the camera, her eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. I clenched the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. She never smiled like that for me anymore. I didn't need to see any more. I had enough. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to my own phone, and then deleted the messages from hers. I wanted her to feel safe, like she still had the chance to lie. Because when morning came, I wanted to watch every single excuse fall apart. I climbed the stairs, moving quietly, the glow of my phone still burning in my palm. When I reached our bedroom, I stood in the doorway for a long moment, just watching her. She was asleep, her breathing steady, her body curled under the blankets like she did every night. Peaceful. How? How did she sleep so easily while I sat downstairs, drowning in the weight of what she had done? I sat down on the edge of the bed, the mattress dipping slightly under my weight. I wasn't sure how long I stayed like that, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every word, every lie, every moment she had chosen someone else over me. I must have drifted off at some point, because when I opened my eyes again, morning had come. The sound of clinking dishes and the faint hum of her voice reached my ears. She was in the kitchen. I grabbed my phone, opened the screenshots, and stared at them one last time. Then I got up. By the time I walked into the kitchen, she was flipping a pancake onto a plate, humming softly to herself like today was just another normal day. She looked up and smiled. "Morning," she said like nothing was wrong. I did not answer. Instead, I placed my phone on the table between us and tapped the screen. The first screenshot flashed to life. Her smile vanished. Her body stiffened, her eyes locking onto the screen like it had just ripped the air from her lungs. She blinked, swallowed hard, and then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asked, "What is this?" I crossed my arms. "You tell me," I said flatly. "Go ahead, read them." Her hand shook as she reached for the phone. But before she could grab it, I snatched it away. "Do not even try to delete anything," I said, my voice cold as steel. "I have got everything saved." She staggered back, her back hitting the counter. "I can explain," she said quickly. Her voice cracked. "Of course you can," I said, sarcasm dripping from every word. "You always have an explanation, don't you?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I did not move. Not this time. I wanted answers, and I was not stopping until I had them. I leaned in just enough so she couldn't escape me. "Let us start with the truth, Emily," I said. "And do not dare tell me this was just coffee." Her lips quivered, but no words came out. For once, she did not have script. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Her breath hitched as she stared at the phone in my hand, as if it were a weapon she couldn't defend herself against. I leaned back, giving her space, not because she deserved it, but because I wanted to watch her squirm. Because this was only the beginning. She wiped her eyes quickly, like she thought erasing the tears would somehow erase the truth. But I wasn't buying it. I knew the difference between guilt and regret. And right now, Julia wasn't feeling guilty about what she had done. She was regretting getting caught. "I did not cheat on you," she blurted out, the words tumbling out too fast, like saying them first would somehow make them real. It was not like that. I swear. I let out a slow breath, unimpressed. "Then what was it?" I asked, tapping my phone screen, scrolling through the very real messages she had sent him. Because these sure don't read like some innocent catch-up over coffee. "Be honest, Julia, did you miss him?" She flinched. "Is that what this was about?" I continued, my voice sharper now. Reliving the glory days with the guy who had you before I did? Her gaze darted around the kitchen, her fingers gripping the edge of the counter like she was trying to hold herself together. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. It was not about him, she said. It was about me. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, so this is some self-discovery journey? That's the excuse now. Her face turned red, not just with embarrassment, but with anger. You do not understand, she snapped. Things between us haven't been, right? And you know that. You have felt it too. I stayed silent, watching her. The distance, the routine, the way we barely talk anymore. Her voice shook, but she wasn't crying. She was justifying. I was not seeking him out because I wanted him. I needed something. I needed to feel like me again. I clenched my jaw. And he was the solution? It was not like that, she whispered, shaking her head. I never meant to hurt you. That was when I snapped. You never meant to hurt me? I repeated, stepping closer. Julia, you did not accidentally meet up with him behind my back. You did not accidentally send him those messages. You did not accidentally lie to me over and over again. Her breath caught in her throat. You made a choice. And now that I have caught you, you want to act like it was some kind of mistake. She didn't answer, because there was no answer. I exhaled through my nose, trying to control the storm brewing inside me. I placed my phone on the table, tapping the screen again, another set of texts. So tell me, Julia, what happened after the coffee dates? My voice was steady now, too calm. She swallowed hard. We did not sleep together. I raised an eyebrow. And I'm just supposed to take your word for that? Her lip trembled. I swear on everything. I would not do that to you. Then why did you hide it? She dropped her head. Because I knew you would see it as a betrayal. I leaned in, my hands pressing against the counter as I stared her down. Because it's a betrayal, Julia. She let out a sob, finally breaking. You have to believe me, she pleaded. I stopped it before it could go any further. I studied her, searching for even a shred of truth. Why now? I asked. Why stop it now, after all this time? She hesitated, just for a second, and that was all I needed. You did not stop it, I said, my voice dropping lower. You got caught. Her mouth opened, then closed. That was it. That was the moment she knew she could not talk her way out of this. She crumpled onto the chair, completely unraveling, tears spilling down her face. How far did it go, Julia? I asked. No more lies. No more half-truths. She wiped her face with her sleeve, her breath hitching. We kissed, she whispered. Everything inside me went still. When? I asked, even though I already knew I would hate the answer. Her lips trembled. Last week, my stomach twisted. Last week, when she told me she had a late meeting. When I had been home alone, making dinner, thinking she was just working late. I took a step back, needing distance. Did you plan it? No, she said quickly. It was not planned. We met for coffee, and it just happened. I clenched my fists. That is convenient. It is the truth, she sobbed. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I did not sleep with him. I swear to you, it never went that far. I let out a cold laugh. And that is supposed to make me feel better? She opened her mouth, then closed it, looking completely lost. I turned away, my hands running through my hair as I tried to breathe. I had never in my entire life felt this kind of betrayal. I need some air, I muttered, grabbing my jacket. Please do not go, she whispered, standing up so fast the chair nearly tipped over. We can fix this. I can fix this. I reached for the doorknob, but paused, looking at her one last time. You should have thought about that before you kissed him. And with that, I walked out. The cold morning air hit my face like a slap, but it was not enough to cool the fire burning inside me. I did not know where I was going. I just walked. The streets were quiet, the neighborhood still asleep. A few joggers passed me, a couple of dog walkers strolled by. Normal people living normal lives. People who weren't dealing with this. I exhaled sharply, my breath turning into white mist in the freezing air. She had admitted to the kiss, but I knew there was more. People never admit everything at once. They drip-feed the truth, telling you what they think you can handle, hoping it will be enough to stop you from digging deeper. But I was not done digging. This was not over. Not by a long shot. The thing about betrayal is that it does not just break a moment. it breaks everything. Every memory, every word, every touch, they all start to feel like lies. You find yourself looking back, retracing your steps, wondering how long you have been living a life that was not real. I sat alone on a park bench, a place that once meant something to us. This was where Julia and I had spent countless evenings dreaming about the future. But now, the bench felt like a grave marker, a reminder of something that had died quietly while I wasn't looking. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over the screenshots. I didn't want to look again, but I had to. I scrolled slowly, reading each text as if they held some hidden code I had not cracked yet. Most of them were playful, flirty, but then I hit one that froze me in place. Last week felt like old times. I can't stop thinking about it. I'll wait for your decision. It was from him. Sent the night of the kiss. I read it again and again. I'll wait for your decision. What decision? Julia had told me she ended it after the kiss, that she shut him down. But this message told a different story. This message sounded like a man who thought she still had a choice to make. If she had really ended things, why was he waiting? Another lie. The anger came back, stronger this time. I stood up, shoving my phone back into my pocket as I walked home. The brisk air did nothing to cool me down. If she thought she could keep feeding me half-truths, she was about to find out otherwise. When I stepped through the front door, she was still in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a coffee mug cradled in her hands. She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "You did not leave," she said softly, like she hadn't expected me to come back. I ignored the false vulnerability and pulled out my phone, placing it on the table between us. One tap, and the message appeared. "Explain this." My voice was flat, cold, final. Her eyes flicked to the screen, and I saw it. The way her breath hitched. The way she tried to mask the panic. "It is not what you think," she said, her voice trembling. "Stop saying that." I slammed my fist against the table, the sound sharp against the silence. "You have said that so many times I could tattoo it on my damn arm." What decision was he waiting for, Julia? She gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles turned white. "He wanted me to leave you," she whispered, the words tumbling out like glass shards. "He said if I was not happy, we could start over." But I told him no. I told him I was not leaving you. The room shrunk around me. "So he thought you needed time to decide?" "Yes," she sobbed, "but I did not need time." I told him that night. It was not going to happen. I swear. I leaned in closer, my hands pressing into the table. "If you were so sure, why didn't you block him?" Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. "Why did you let him keep texting you?" Her whole body tensed. I do not know," she whispered. "I was scared. I did not want to make things worse. I thought if I just ignored him, he would go away." "Lies. Did you tell him to stop contacting you?" She hesitated. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "You didn't, did you?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. "So, you left the door open. That is what you were really saying. You did not want him, but you did not shut him out either. You kept him on standby, just in case." "No," she cried, reaching for my arm, but I pulled away. "It was not like that. I love you. I have always loved you. You just wanted options." I cut her off, my voice razor sharp. "You wanted to keep him close enough to feel wanted without losing what you had here." Her sobs filled the room, but they did not move me. I was too far gone. "I need you to believe me," she whispered, broken. "I ended it. I chose you." I stared at her, the woman I had trusted, the woman I thought I knew. "You didn't choose me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You only chose me because I found out." Her face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw it, the full weight of her guilt. But guilt was not enough. Guilt did not erase the texts. Guilt did not erase the kiss. Guilt did not erase the fact that she had spent weeks, maybe months, giving another man a part of herself that was supposed to be mine. I turned away, heading toward the stairs without another word. I needed space. Time. I needed to figure out if there was anything left here worth saving. As I climbed the steps, I heard her whisper something. But I didn't stop. I didn't care. Not right now. Because the truth was, I didn't know if I could ever believe her again. I spent the rest of the day in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling like it held some hidden answer I was missing. The weight of her confession pressed down on me like a stone on my chest. I replayed everything. Every conversation we had ever had about him. Every night she came home late. Every excuse that had seemed innocent at the time. It was not just the kiss. It was the secrecy. It was the texts. It was the fact that she had let him live in our lives like a shadow I wasn't supposed to see. And now, that shadow had swallowed everything. By evening, I heard her footsteps approach the bedroom door. A soft knock. Then, her voice fragile, trembling. "Can we talk?" she asked through the wood. I didn't answer. I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was the moment everything finally ended. The thing about betrayal is that it does not end when the lies stop. It lingers. It stays in the walls, in the silence, in the spaces between words that used to mean something. When Julia knocked on the door, I did not answer. But she walked in anyway. She looked wrecked, eyes swollen, face pale, the tear streaks on her cheeks like remnants of a storm that had already passed but left destruction in its wake. She looked like a woman on the edge of collapse. But I was not ready to catch her. She lowered herself onto the floor, sitting across from me, knees pulled to her chest like a child bracing for punishment. The hum of the radiator was the only sound in the room. And then she spoke. "I know I have destroyed everything," she whispered, voice so thin I almost did not hear it. "But I am begging you to let me fix it." I exhaled slowly, my arms resting on my knees, my fingers laced together. "You can't fix this," I said, my voice hollow. "Do you think saying sorry will glue the pieces back together? It won't. The cracks will always be there." She wiped her face, her hands shaking. "I will do whatever it takes. I will cut him off completely, block him, change my number if I have to. Just tell me what you need." I let her words hang in the air. She was desperate. But was it for me? Or was she just trying to save herself from the consequences? "You lied to me for months," I finally said, my voice controlled but sharp. "And now you expect me to believe that, all of a sudden, you are capable of honesty?" "I am," she insisted, voice cracking. "I will prove it to you. I will do anything you want." I shook my head. The weight of her promises pressed down on me like stones. "You're only saying that because you got caught. If I had not seen that photo, you would have kept going, wouldn't you?" "No," she said quickly, too quickly. "I swear I was going to end it." I cut her off, the anger flaring again. "You keep saying that." I snapped, "but I do not believe you. You didn't end it." "I did, by finding out. And if I had not," I gestured toward the nightstand, where her phone sat like a silent witness. "Who knows how far it would have gone?" She covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly, rocking back and forth like she could physically shake off the guilt. I wanted to feel something. Pity. Forgiveness. But all I felt was exhaustion. And then, her phone buzzed. The sound was small, but it exploded in the silence like a gunshot. We both turned to look at it. For a split second, I saw it. That flicker of panic. The reflex to hide something. She lunged for the phone. But I was faster. I grabbed it, unlocking it with the passcode I had known for years. My heart pounded as I opened the message. It was from him. "I know you are scared, but we do not have to hide anymore. Just say the word, and I will be there." The room tilted. I stared at the words, my hands shaking with a mix of rage and disbelief. I turned the phone around, shoving it in her face. "You told him it was over, huh?" My voice was low, deadly. Her sobs turned into gasps, her body trembling. I did not reply. "I did not. But you did not block him either." I cut her off, voice like ice. "He is still waiting for you, Julia. He still thinks you're going to leave me. And do you know why he thinks that?" She just stared at me, tears streaming down her face. "Because you left the door open." She collapsed onto the floor, her face buried in her arms, her body shaking so hard it looked like she was coming apart at the seams. I watched her, waiting to feel something. Anger, satisfaction, closure. But none of it came. I just felt empty. I stood up, pacing the room, trying to think. I could leave her. I had every reason to. But a small, nagging part of me wanted to know why. Not why she kissed him. Not why she lied. But why she kept holding on to him. What did he give her that I couldn't? I stopped pacing and sat back down on the bed. My voice was calmer now, but no less serious. "Tell me the truth, Julia." Her head snapped up. "Why him? Why did you not block him after you told me you ended it?" She sniffled, wiping her face. her back pressed against the wall like she needed it to hold her up. "I do not know," she whispered. "Bullshit." Her breath hitched. "Tell me." She swallowed hard. "I was scared," she admitted, voice breaking. "I thought, what if things between us did not get better? What if one day you woke up and realized you did not want me anymore?" He was my safety net. He made me feel wanted, and I was selfish enough to keep him there just in case. Her words hit me like a hammer to the chest. This was not about love. This was not about passion. This was about security. She was afraid of being left behind, so she made sure she had a backup plan. And that hurt more than the affair ever could. "So, you were waiting to see if I failed." My voice was cold. "And if I did, you would have him ready to pick up the pieces." She shook her head violently. "No, it was not like that. I love you. I never stopped loving you." I did not answer, because I did not know what I felt anymore. Love, betrayal, anger. They were all tangled together, making it impossible to see clearly. I stood up, grabbing my jacket. "Where are you going?" she asked, panic creeping in her voice. "I need time," I said, my voice void of emotion. "Do not follow me." I walked out the door and into the cold night. The past was not just something Julia had dragged back into our lives. It was something that had its claws in both of us. The difference was, she had opened the door willingly. And now, it was up to me to decide whether I would close it for good.